Hello, and welcome to the 45th episode of the Queen Bee Book Club podcast. I'm Audrey.
And I'm Cher.
And we are your Queen Bees, your back Queen Bees.
We are back after, months of a sabbatical.
Yes, maybe we'll be like a seasonal podcast.
I think that seems right. I also am going to have so much time now on my hands it's a 9 to 5, so I'll be back to normal.
Yeah, we'll be like one of those fun TV shows that premiere in the summertime, and you're like, ooh, and then they do like a Christmas special.
Yes, 100%. Or Halloween, whatever we feel.
Because everyone needs content in the summer, and it's always when people go on break. So,
it's very true.
We're really filling that need.
You're welcome. So I guess a lot of things have happened since it was January when we last recorded.
I know, we both turned 27.
Which seems very old.
Yeah, I'm so far not a fan because basically the first two things that happened to me as a 27-year-old was I got stuck in an elevator and
for how long?
30 minutes.
Okay, that's long. That's very long.
I will say, shouts out to the Montgomery County Fire Department. I've only ever had really lovely experiences with them. And they were very kind and lovely and speedy. Once we called them, they showed up within 10 minutes. But our building had told us that their maintenance team was 40 minutes away. And Lauren was like, "Okay, you're calling 911 because I'm going to freak out."
Yeah, the walls start going in on you and stuff.
Yeah, I was pretty okay, but then I almost started crying talking to the 911 operator because he was very soothing.
Oh, God bless.
And I thought about for a brief second, his voice is kind of what I imagined. Do you remember that from My Favorite Murder, that I Survived story about the girl?
I was just thinking about that.
And she calls 911 and basically if you haven't listened to this episode or seen this episode of I Survived, this girl wakes up to someone attacking her, which is literally a nightmare and
literally
my worst fear. And she basically fights him off and ends up sequestering herself in her bathroom and then is able to call 911. And this operator talks to her for the whole time that she's there, and she almost dies. And then you find out later that it's the attacker, but it's her superintendent or something, or the security guard.
The security guard, yeah.
Is knocking on the door and trying to get into her building. He's like, "Hey, I thought I heard something up here. Let me in." And the 911 operator is the one who's like, "Don't let this person in. I have a bad feeling about it. The ambulance is going to be there soon." And he ended up being the attacker. And then this lovely 911 operator ended up going to this girl's wedding.
They danced at her wedding.
I know. They remained friends.
I know.
And so I thought about that story, and he was just also just very soothing. And so I did
you invite him to your wedding?
Crying. I should have.
You should have. You should have gotten his contact info.
Be listen, I'm going to be having a wedding maybe one day, and
I would love for you to be there.
You are very comforting, sir.
Yeah. Well, I have to say my 27th birthday was better than my 26th, where I lost half my tooth. So.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
I do think my 27th birthday was probably better because my 26th birthday was right when my Google job ended. And so it was literally happy birthday. You don't have health insurance or a job anymore. So figure it out.
That's really true. Health insurance, God.
Who needs it?
It's the worst. Well, we all need it is the problem.
It's also the end of your first year of law school and my first year of teaching. Lots of firsts coming to a close.
Yeah. How do you feel?
I feel really good. I feel like...
Hi to your students who are now listening since they discovered us.
Yeah, it took all year, but they very well could be listening now. So, got to have that in mind.
Shout outs to you.
Shouts out.
We do have an explicit rating, so...
My mom scolded me when I said it's now possible that my students have heard me say the F word or something. And she was like, well, my mom's attitude is well, why are you saying that word at all?
Well, because it's fun.
Yes. In my opinion, yes.
And sometimes, I don't know.
Yeah. How do you feel about being done with law school? Well, the first year, anyway.
I have to say this year took a lot out of me.
Yeah. I think it's supposed to, though.
Yeah. Haven't really done much fun things for the past several months. Like, I haven't read, well, until I read this book in 2 days, I hadn't read a book or, like, I don't know, talked on the phone to my mom for, like, months. Yeah, I know. But, I mean, it's over. I think this year is the worst, or, like, supposedly, that's what they say. So, hopefully things will be better moving forward. Like, I like law school. I'm glad I'm doing what I'm doing, but it was a brutal time.
Well, that's good. It would suck if you were uncertain about it.
No, I feel certain about it. So that's
relieving.
At least a relief, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you just went to New Orleans, though. That seemed fun.
I did. That was fun. Yeah. My friend Brett is working down there, and he needed somebody to accompany him in the car, and he invited us. And yeah, it was fun. I mean, I probably have not been drunker for like a more extended period of time ever, but yeah, I think I needed the unwind.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like there's no better place than I was about to say Sin City, but that's not what that place is called.
Well,
that's
it might
Las
as well
Vegas.
be.
I mean, I think it's one of the Sin Cities for
one
sure.
Of them. Yeah, we went on Bourbon Street for about like 15 seconds.
And you were like, no.
Well, I mean, I was so drunk that like I was kind of in the wandering stage of like, wow, this is interesting. And I spotted some police horses and was like very intrigued to like go see them. But yeah, at one point I was separated from my friends and they were like,
oh,
I've
no.
never been more afraid we might lose you forever. But yeah, no, it was a great time. Would go back. I hope Brett's enjoying New Orleans. Yeah, I went to Nashville and visited my sister too. Also a very fun time. I would say, like, if we were to take a girls' trip to one of those places, I would pick Nashville.
Okay. I feel like I hear really good things about Nashville, and I would really like to go. And that's good intel, because sometimes you feel like, oh, like, should you be making the trip to New Orleans? And part of me feels like I could probably miss it. But I also do want to go.
I mean, we had a good time, I think, because Brett, like, had lived there before, and so we didn't really do anything touristy. Like, we were doing more, like, local things, like drinking in, like, on the side of the freeway and things like that. But,
I feel like it's invaluable when you are traveling or when you're visiting a city, especially if you're there for the first time, and it's invaluable to have someone who's been there before or, like, is, like, a semi-expert. Because... Well, I think when you're all in the dark, it's like, this isn't fun because we're like not, it just feels like you're not doing it correctly.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think like a key element is who knows, like someone who knows what food is good. Because that's a big thing when you're traveling, when you're like, oh, I'll just hop in this little place. And it's like, well, this was terrible.
Well, especially when it's a place where you hear like the food is really good there or whatever, you know, and it's like you end up eating at Chili's because you just like want something that you know.
Chili's is one of my favorite restaurants, so please do not talk smack.
No, I'm not disparaging Chili's. I'm saying that like it's like when you're uncertain, you're like, I'm going to just eat where I like know what I'm getting into rather than like risk like, I don't know, not enjoying myself. But then you're like, oh shit, like I traveled and I only went to Chili's.
Or like Hard Rock Cafe.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I will, just to talk about Chili's for a minute, one of the crim law cases that I read this semester was a murder that happened at Chili's.
Oh.
Yeah, I was furious. I was like, how dare you on sacred ground? Don't mess with Chili's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Chili's. The chicken enchilada soup is just good. Yeah. The drinks are huge. The nachos are good. Their buffalo wings are good.
It's a great deal.
Come on. It's a great place. My family used to go there after church on Sundays, and I just, like, loved it.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So I feel like before we get into the book, we for sure have to talk about Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Because this show is like, I would say this show is probably 50% a book podcast, 25% a Game of Thrones podcast, and 25% a teen show podcast.
Okay, yeah. Before we talk about Game of Thrones, I just want to tell everyone that I finally finished Friday Night Lights.
Oh, God bless.
It took me forever, but I finished. And let me just say, I'm a little bit disappointed with some aspects of the ending.
Okay. Specifically.
For example, Julie Taylor and Matt Saracen getting engaged when they are not ready. they're not ready. Like, I'm sorry. It's like, Julie, you're just rebounding from, like, having an affair with your teacher. You're a freshman in college.
I know.
And barely at that, because you haven't been in a while.
I know. Dislike.
And like, I sort of felt like that was going to go in a different direction. Like, it was going to, like, I could very much see that happening as, like, an idea. And then Tammy, like, having a good talk with her and, like, sort of, like, making her realize that, like, maybe she's making a mistake.
Yeah.
It's kind of, and which is not to say, like, I mean, I really like Matt. I think he could do better than Julie. Like, I think she's toxic and bad.
Honestly, like, I think it's effed that she, like, goes up there to Chicago, like, after she ruins her freshman year, and then is like, oh, where to go? Matt. It's like, leave Matt alone.
I mean, I understand it. Like, he's her, like, safe place, and, like, she feels, like, wanted and loved and whatever, and, like, he will always love her, but, like, come on. Like, let the kid live. He's living in his weird artist loft, like, doing whatever he's doing.
In Chicago.
Like, they have no money. Like, it's just, like, neither one of them really, like, Matt barely has a job. He has no college degree. Julie has neither. Like,
that to me is, like, it's a little bit better, but it is on par with when Nathan and Haley get married their junior year of high school in One Tree Hill. And it's like, what?
Oh, I never watched that show. I probably should.
Rachel, Lauren, and I are in a rewatch now. And it's, like, pretty laughably bad at points. But it's also just, like, I think it's, like, one of the, like, it's up there with the glory of, like, a classic teen show to me. But, like, Haley literally has a line after they get married that's like, I don't know how to be a wife. I'm not even a senior.
Oh, my God.
And it's like, it's just... I even remember as a high school student being like, I don't think that's romantic. Like, I don't think they should be married at all.
Listen, Haley, I am 27 and have been married 2 years, and I also don't know how to be a wife, so... I don't know. So I was disappointed. I was disappointed with that. I liked the Tim Riggins ending with like Tyra and him like looking over his land and being like, you know, maybe one day.
I didn't want them to be together though.
Why? Who'd you want? Lila?
I don't know. Or like maybe Tim
Becky,
could be alone.
That infant?
No. But I liked that Tim and Tyra had developed like a friendship and like almost like a brother sister. And I was like, Tyra doesn't need to be going back to Dylan.
I mean, I think that's true. I think the thing about Tyra, it's also weird because Billy's married to Tyra's sister.
Yes.
So it's like kind of like, well, but I think like I just like that. I think Tyra would be good for Tim.
Yeah.
I think Tim needs somebody like Tyra, and I care so much about Tim, so I guess I'm willing to sacrifice Tyra's bright future. Although she's like, I want to be a CEO. And I'm like, you go, girl. Yeah. You will be supporting Tim for the rest of your life, so you better get a lot of money. Yeah, I liked Vince's storyline. I thought it was good.
My heart.
Yeah. I don't know. Who are the other characters?
Coach and Tammy.
Oh, yeah, Coach and Tammy. Yes. Okay, I was very concerned about that storyline for a long time that, like, basically Tammy gets, like, her dream job offer and Coach, like, gets offered to, like, go back to the Panthers, and it's very unclear that he's not going to take it, but thank God he doesn't.
I know. I love that he, like, he sacrifices it for her.
But like, she had sacrificed everything for him before, so it just sort of was like, the fact that they were having that fight, like, me and Brendan were watching it being like, oh my God, like, what are you doing? Like, Coach T, like, you, like, it was just so selfish.
I know.
But he comes around.
Yeah. Well, and especially, it's like, do you really want to go and coach the Panthers?
No, you can't.
Like, deal with all those people?
Like Buddy Taylor showing up at his house at, like, 2 a.m.
Buddy does that now.
I know. It's true.
Because he went over to the Lions.
I know.
Great show.
It was a good show. I mean, I think I liked the first part better, though, maybe.
Yeah. I think that's probably fair.
They are. I mean, I think Vince's storyline is very good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Also, I want some closure on that foster boy that Buddy had.
Oh, yeah.
My favorite storyline of the show. which like they really let go.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot about him.
I forget his name too. Oh my god, my whole leg is asleep. This has got to stop.
I feel like his name started with an S.
Shit, I don't know. I have no earthly idea.
No, I don't remember either. Well, whatever.
Oh, I really liked the storyline about Vince's girlfriend like wanting to become a football coach.
Oh my god. And then when she like has to get coach's recommendation for this like camp, and she's like, "Did you write the recommendation yet?" And he's like, "What? No, I called the coach on the phone and told him you should get it." I just love that Coach is like so not like a coddling person. Like it's just like, what why are you bothering me? I already like did the recommendation for you. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I think that's refreshing because I think a lot of high school shows, it's very like the adult figures have to be like the like cushy.
Tammys.
Yeah, but even Tammy is a little bit like, you need to get your stuff together. What's going on?
Tammy reminds me of my mom.
Yeah, or like more of a listener and then a real talker.
Well, and like also just like practical advice.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think she and my mom is the same way where it's like, okay, like things are pretty effed up, but like we have there's some steps you can take to like minimally get you back like on a normal-ish track. Yeah. And here's the list. Get it done.
Right. Yeah.
Mary Kate and I are going to watch season 2 of The OC when she comes back in town. Yeah. Yes. We have like only a few days to do it. I'm like, do you think we can finish? She's like, yeah, I do.
Yes. Oh my God. I can't wait to talk to you about season 2 of The OC. It's beautiful.
Okay. Well, season 1, we really left in a bad way.
Yeah. They cleaned that up pretty quick.
Okay. Good. I've been really worried about it. Okay, we can talk about Game of Thrones now. I just wanted to let everyone know, since it's been like since the beginning of this podcast, I've been trying to watch Friday Night. So everyone, it's done. It's over.
Yeah. Okay. So that was Teen Show Corner. Like
Teen
we said,
Show Corner.
25% a teen show podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Game of Thrones, man. I think like, I don't know. I mean, I saw something where it was like, no, you're never going to like the finale of something because it's like, especially if it's something you love, because you don't really want it to be over.
Okay, that's bullshit. Sorry if it is.
Well, part of me agrees with that just because I think that a finale, like even a final season of something, like always has this different flavor to it than other, like, I don't know. Basically, what I missed about this season was I just missed like when we were all having a great time, like making jokes about like, you know, the old Sansa Stark can't come to the phone right now because she's dead, you know, like, I just miss those days, but I don't think I would say that I like hated the last season, but like not enough Sansa for my flavor.
I hated the last season. So, I mean, maybe it's good. We usually agree, so.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's also, I mean, there are definitely things that were not my favorite, and it's certainly not ever going to be my favorite season of the show or whatever. But I also just like, I don't know. I was like, this is a show I've liked, so I'm just going to accept what's happening and move forward.
See, to me, this season felt like fan fiction. Like, it felt like...
Yeah.
It just didn't feel the same. And I think part of that was the pacing. Like, it's like in previous seasons, like, how many fucking hours did we spend following Bran Stark in the forest? Too many for my liking. And, and then this season, it's like, oh, well, we killed the Night King episode 3, and then we're gonna, like, finish the entire show in 2 more like, it's just, like, it was too many things.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the things, I think that David and Dan, the creators of the show.
Your boys, Dave and Dan.
David and Dan. I think their skill was adapting. Like, I think that they were brilliant adapters of George R.R. Martin's books. Okay. Like, I think they made a lot of really savvy choices in paring down those books and making, and, like, telling, like, pulling out the most, like, interesting and cool. I mean, they really fucked up the Martells, but, like, whatever, we forgive them for it. But I think that they were, like, so good at adapting, and I think that they had always assumed when they began this project almost 10 years ago that the last 2 books would be finished.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where it's, like, it's a totally different skill to be creating. And it's also possible, I think, that George R.R. Martin like didn't have, he probably had like a rough outline of what he wanted to do with the last book and like last two, right. But he you know, and I think that's where it's evident in this last season, where like I think probably the last 2 seasons were probably from this one that hasn't come out yet. Mm-hmm. Where he's been working on it and he knows a lot of the beats already. But then the last season is from the 7th book, where he might just have like a general idea. And then, so they were doing a lot of inventing, which like is a totally different animal than having to adapt something, which I think that's what they were really good at.
Right. Well, and I also think they were so eager to get onto Star Wars that they're like, oh, we're only doing, was it 6 episodes? I mean, that's just not enough.
Yeah, I mean, most of them were like almost an hour and a half long.
Okay, well, it's still not enough.
But I agree. Like, I think that if they had slowed down the pacing of a lot of that stuff, it would have been a lot easier to handle, or like could have felt a little bit more genuine and natural. But I did like some of the themes that they tried to bring out of this idea of like, and again, like they didn't do it as elegantly as maybe they could have, but I liked the idea of, you know, like any idea of an absolute ruler is flawed, and also like war itself is not glorious or like interesting, it's actually disgusting. And I think they did a good job kind of highlighting that and like saying like, no, it's not like heroic to be a part of war, it's terrible.
Yeah, I mean,
but not enough. Like, honestly, the last season should have just been 6 episodes of Sansa, and I would have been pleased.
I mean, there are episodes where Sansa wasn't even in them, so.
I know, flawed. But I also think that part of that, though, I think one of my biggest disappointments was that for so long, one of the, like, guiding forces of the show was this idea of, like, the Starks are apart, and we want them to be together. And, like, the Starks are apart, and so everything's gone to shit. And if they come together, like, it'll be better. And like one of the best moments of the entire series, in my opinion, is when Jon and Sansa reunite. And it's like just this beautiful moment of catharsis. And then it leads to the Battle of the Bastards, which I think is one of the best episodes of the show.
Agreed.
And like leads to a really interesting character arc for Sansa and even for Jon. And then I think that like all of the Starks are together in this last season, and they barely spend any time talking to one another. And then at the end, it's like they all go in their separate ways. And I was like, no. Yeah. Like they should at least be writing letters. Like why is Jon spending all of his time talking to Dany and Tyrion and not Sansa? Or like Arya? Like why did they not have more scenes together? It didn't make any sense to me.
Well, and I think it's something we've craved in the show for so long and been waiting for so long, and then we like don't really get the reward. Or it's like it's like all that like that one episode where I was like very concerned that they were gonna hook up Theon and Sansa. I'm like, why the fuck is like Arya having sex with Gendry and Sansa like looking starry eyed at Theon? Like why? Like this is not how you spend your last night on Earth. You spend it with your family,
hugging. Like come on,
yeah. I think for me, like, so I'll be honest, like, after the show ended, I literally, like, I was furiously mad. I had people over at my house and was basically like, you need to all leave. Because I was just, like, I was just so upset. And, I, like, just, like, got in the bathtub and, like, cried. And I think that what that was all about was basically that I felt like Game of Thrones had set up a show where, like, yeah, we had patriarchy and yeah, we had a lot of men, but like we had so many powerful women. Like we had Brienne and we had Arya and we had Sansa and we had even Cersei. I mean, I love Cersei. Sorry. I won't apologize for it.
I mean, she's a great character.
She is a good character. And then when the show ends, it's like we kind of like not like it's like who's on the King's Council? It's like Brienne, kind of. Like she's the only woman. Like the show ends basically with them talking about brothels and like Sansa's Queen of the North. Great. I mean, okay, she should be queen of fucking everything. And then her dumb brother, who I have hated for the whole show, is king, who has like done literally nothing. Like, I think, like, I understand this whole idea of, like, oh, the wheel, break the wheel or whatever. But, like, when Tyrion got up and was making that speech about, like, you know, this is about stories and no one has a better story. And I'm like, then Sansa Stark. Nobody has a better story than Sansa Stark. And I honestly felt very betrayed by the whole thing, because I sort of felt like Tyrion should be loyal to Sansa. Number one, because he's her ex-husband. Mm-hmm. And number two, because, like, he sees how strong she is and how much she's learned. Like, Sansa's the only person who's actually governed before. And so, I sort of felt like in this moment in time where we're going through a presidential election and where everybody is saying, like, a woman will never be president, a woman can never be president, like, a woman will never win. It's like, well, like, now that's been affirmed in our media, too. It's like, well, you know, even though Sansa's the best gal for the job, we're going to give it to Bran.
But I don't think Sansa would want to be queen of Westeros. Like, I think she wanted to be queen of the North. Like, she did not want the North to be part of the Seven Kingdoms. I don't care what
she wants. I'm talking about what's best for the people.
Well, a lot of them can come up and join them in the North and have a nice time.
I don't know. It felt disappointing to me.
Yeah, I get that. And I also think that it makes no sense to me. Like, I liked that Brienne had that moment where she, like, fills in all that stuff about Jaime and becomes captain of the King's Guard. But I was like, it makes no sense that she would leave Sansa. She would be captain of her Queen's Guard and be super happy because they're, like, tight. Like, well, why would she be like, I want to leave you to be with Bran?
Well, and I kind of hated Brienne's arc, too, because it's like, Brienne's arc becomes about her pining after Jaime. And it's like, her last, like, most moving scene is her writing about his heroic deeds. And so, like, once again, like, the women's deeds are completely not acknowledged or, like, talked about.
Yeah, no, I totally see that.
And then I think, I don't know.
Well, and I
didn't like how Cersei went out either. Like, I mean, I actually liked, I think I might be the only person who was, like, happy that Jaime and Cersei, like, were together in the end. Am I fucked up for that? Maybe. But I sort of felt like,
I just think that Jaime, part wasn't earned because, like, Jaime coming back, like, Jaime leaving in general took so much character development. Yeah. And then finally, like, he leaves, and then a couple episodes later, like, for not even that good of a reason, he's like, I gotta go.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
I think that ultimately, though, there's something nice about the idea that, like, Jaime can dislike a lot of the things that Cersei does, but ultimately, like, he still loves her always.
Yeah.
And, like, the most always. And, like, I just never really, like, I liked the idea that Brienne had a crush on Jaime. Like, I thought that was kind of endearing for her and, like, gave her some humanity. But, like, I sort of would have preferred that remained that way, and, like, Jaime just, like, had a lot of respect for her and, like, cared about her a lot.
Well, see, I always felt like it was more like she had a lot of respect for him and cared about him, and that he kind of was, like, developing these feelings that he didn't know what to do with for her. And, like, especially because how they set it up in those episodes where he comes back is, like, he is fully, like, obsessed with her, like, staring at her all the time and, like, looking at her with this, like, such genuine reverence and love. And it's almost like, because she is such the antithesis to Cersei in so many ways, and she sees him for, like, almost the person that he wants to be, whereas Cersei is, like, not that she sees, like, the negative in him, but she's like, who cares about all that stuff? It's just, it's like you and me, like, that's our thing. Right. But yeah, I mean, I never necessarily needed that to be consummated, but I liked that. I liked the idea of the two of them having this, like, really genuine respect for one another. And then I feel like that is kind of taken away.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't like how that was dealt with.
Yeah, and I think they could have had some kind of storyline for Brienne where it was about her trying to figure out her role now that she kind of has been successful in keeping Sansa safe and providing her counsel. And maybe she could have been Sansa's hand. Like, come on.
Yeah. I also don't like the idea, like, so Sansa is Queen of the North now. Great, she's alone.
Yes.
And guess what?
Thank
Sansa
you.
also has never had a sex-positive relationship in her life.
Sad.
It is sad. Like I wanted her and like Podrick to get together.
Same. Anyone. Anyone.
I mean, not anyone though. Like, I mean,
anyone good. I mean, no one's good enough for Sansa in that show, but it was like, I mean, come on.
Okay,
it's
so like, I mean, so who else though would be good enough? It's like, okay, Podrick. I mean,
and it's like, okay, I understand.
Tyrion, actually, Tyrion. I'm frankly really, I ship it hard.
I think like I understand liking the idea of like Sansa not having, it's like her arc had nothing to do with romance, and I think that that's great, especially because it changes the like her narrative. Like there's nobody who has more character development than Sansa, where it's like it started out and she's like, I want to be someone's queen and have their babies and it's gonna be awesome, and she's punished severely for that when it's how she was raised. And I like that, but I also think that what you said is so important, this idea of, and first of all, it's like, it's not wrong to want someone to fall in love. Like, that's not inherently anti-feminist. It's just like when that's the only piece of their character, that's when it sucks. But I think what you said about Sansa never having a sex-positive relationship in her life, like, I think that that's terrible. And I love the idea that they were setting her up almost like a Queen Elizabeth. Yeah. But still... No.
Yeah, I mean, I really didn't...
just give her a friend.
Like, give her a friend. I mean, well, and it's like her whole family's gone. She's, like, alone in the north. There's just, like, a bunch of men with beards. Like, Lady Mormont isn't around to, like, for her to mentor.
No.
But I also hated the Arya Gendry, like, sex
I didn't mind that.
I did not need that. Like, to me,
I didn't need it. But I didn't mind it.
I just sort of felt like I would have rather have that time been like her and the Hound bantering. That's what I'm here for. I love the Hound. I will not apologize for it. All I want is them.
Yeah. And I did like in the next episode though, not the next, but then one after that, where Gendry is like, I love you and let's get married. And Arya's like, oh my God.
Like, yeah, no. That's not me. Yeah. Well, I also just felt like the whole like Arya being like an explorer was like really came out of nowhere for me.
Yeah.
Like I sort of was like, why? Like I don't, I don't know. Like, that to me, like, it wasn't like they had been, like, planting the seed for that. Like, I would have liked it better if she went up to the wall with Jon and was like, that's fine, we can hang. I'll help train the boys.
Yeah. I don't know. I get that, like, she has, like, a curiosity for, like, what's out there. And, like, now that it's acceptable. Before, her curiosity was about, like, boyish stuff. And, like, fighting and whatever. And, like, now that she kind of mastered that, she's like, okay, well, like, what's next? So, like, that to me makes some amount of sense. But I also was like, why are you leaving? Yeah. Sansa also just got a job she's not 100% prepared for, but yet she kind of is. But she definitely needs her sister.
Yeah. I really liked how they... like had Arya being like, Sansa's the smartest person I know to Jon when he's like trying to talk shit about her. I'm like, yeah, she is.
Burst into tears. Maybe I was like, oh.
Yeah. How did you feel about the Daenerys trajectory?
I thought it made sense. Like, I've never been a Daenerys fan.
Me neither.
I thought it was too fast.
Yeah.
But I think what I said earlier is like that applies to the Daenerys thing, where it's like, look, any person that's seeking absolute control over any group of people is like inherently going to have like a major flaw. Yeah. And that is the idea that they think that they deserve by birth to rule a large group of people.
Right.
And I think it also makes 100% sense to me that Daenerys has tried is so used to walking into places and being like lifted up in the air and being like, you're our mom. And, you know, just being like loved immediately. And in Westeros, they're all kind of like, we're good. Like, we've got plenty of blonde women fucking up our lives and we don't need another one.
Yeah.
And so it makes a lot of sense to me that a person like that, who has only ever been justified in her belief that she is like almost like sent like by, you know, some higher being to be this like ruler, is going to have a hard time swallowing that the people don't just love her, and using like terrible force then to try to get that.
Yeah. I mean, I also think I sort of felt like they had pumped up Daenerys like so much throughout this time, and I think like a lot of people believed that she would be on the throne at the end.
Yeah.
And I guess the only thing I just sort of felt like, which again is like a women's issue, is like, okay, so you have like a limited number of female characters left, and one of them you're just gonna have go crazy. And so to me, if you're gonna do that, then you have to have another one take her spot.
Yeah. Well, I think that like Sansa in a lot of ways is that person, but they didn't give her enough to do. Like they spent so much time talking about Daenerys' mental state and stuff. Right. And like, how are we feeling about Daenerys today, you guys? And it was like, oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So part of me, though, feels like this, I mean, I don't really believe that the books will ever be finished. But
yeah, I don't either.
I feel like this final season is almost the best reason to watch it or read it, just to be like, well, what was the plan?
Oh, I'll read it. I mean,
before I was like, probably not. Like, those books were already getting a little unwieldy. But now I think I will.
Yeah, I will read it. Just in the hopes that something different happens than in the show. Let's see, what else? Oh, I sort of felt like there's like the whole idea of like, oh, we broke the wheel. Like, I now just feel like Tyrion is king now, basically. Because like Bran is like going off and like whatever, daydreaming in his room, where like, and Tyrion's like running the city. So like to me, I'm like, great.
But that's
so we
how
just
it's
have
always kind of functioned with like kings, and like their small council is supposed to be the one that like kind of runs everything, and they're like almost like a figurehead.
I guess, but so I'm like, so how is this really any different?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know that I wouldn't necessarily call what they did breaking the wheel.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess the thing is that Bran can't have children.
Yeah. I don't know.
I just, when the guy, when they have that like weird council meeting to try to figure out who the next ruler should be, and that one guy stands up who's like, what is he? They're Sansa's uncle.
Edmure Tully.
Yeah. Ugh. That I was like, this is every man in law school. It really was.
I just think that maybe I could be, and then Sansa in her best moment was like,
sit down.
Have a seat.
Yeah, get out.
Have a seat.
I didn't like the whole like, I don't know. Jon Snow was a huge disappointment to me this whole season.
I mean, he's never been my favorite, and so, I mean, like, I've always liked Jon, but he's never been, like, the reason I watched the show.
I think he's weak.
And then, yeah, I mean, he became this, like, really central figure, and I was like, I mean, okay, but...
You were more of a Robb fan, right?
Yes.
Ugh,
I mean, I'm
even
Robb.
less of a Robb fan.
But, I mean, I don't know, I guess I didn't know, like, for a while that he was gonna die, but it was also, like... Again, like, it wasn't necessarily that I would have been, like, rooting for Robb to have the Iron Throne.
Right.
Like, ultimately, like, I mean, my favorite character has always been Sansa. And I've never been that interested in, like, who's going to win.
Season 1?
Yes.
Really? Wow, you're a loyalist.
Well, because reading
Arya
the books,
was my favorite for a while.
Sansa was always just, like, in the parts that I was most interested in, which was, like,
That's true.
Conniving and, like, the intrigue and, like, that was what I liked. And so, like, to me, I also was, like, thinking about this last season, and I was like, okay, I don't really care about the White Walkers. Even though I do think that episode was, like, felt like the most exciting in a lot of ways. Like, for, like, it felt a lot like a classic Game of Thrones episode to me.
Yeah.
But I was also like, I also don't specifically care who's sitting on the Iron Throne at the end of the show. Like, I care more about, like, all of the political maneuverings in general. So, like, who's going to win the Great War doesn't really matter to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's true. I think I also was disappointed that the White Walkers were not, like, more explained to me.
Yeah, like, all their designs.
Well, like, what are they? Like I just sort of, like, I understand, like, their, like, origin story, but I just wanted more about, like, why is he trying to overtake this part? Like, what, like, what's the motive? Like, I just didn't really get him. Like, I sort of was, like, basically, like, we're fighting an ice cube who, like, does not have, like, we don't know anything about them.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, to me, I was way more interested in, like, Cersei, because I'm like, I understand
100%.
Cersei, and I know what her motives are, and so it was, like, a lot more interesting to, like, see the two forces, whereas, like, for this, I'm like, oh, okay, so you're just, like, a, like, flood of ice destruction? Like, okay, why? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's that issue of, like, I don't know that George R. R. Martin ever fully figured that out. And it's, like, such a, like, the first chapter of the entire series is, like, the reveal of the White Walkers. And so it's
built
almost
up
like
forever.
Yeah, so there's, like, this idea of, like, oh, well, they like, must be important. And then, like, I don't know if it was David and Dan that had to decide, like, what that was about, or if George was like, I haven't really figured that one out yet.
Well, you know, in the end, when, like, John walks into the woods with the wildlings, like, I sort of thought, like, oh, are these people, like, the new children of the forest?
I mean,
was
maybe.
that what that was trying to say? Like, I was like...
But, like, the children of the forest are, like, mystical.
Yeah, well...
They can do magic. But my brother was, like, very stuck on. He was like, okay, like, why is there a Night's Watch? What are they guarding against?
That's true. It's true.
I was like, I don't know, folks. Like,
if there are any
people
bad
get a little
out
of line beyond the wall, like, who knows?
Well, it kind of seems like the White Walkers just got rid of all of them, though. So it's like, it seems like it's just empty out there.
Russell was like, what is there to guard against? I don't understand. I was like, now it's just kind of like a working jail.
Now it's just prison. Yeah, it's like Alcatraz.
I saw a meme, though, that was like, you know that end scene of Legally Blonde where it shows, like, all the characters and how they end up at the end of law school? And when it shows Warner, it's like Warner graduated without honors, like, no offers.
Oh, yeah.
Like, no girlfriends. And it was like, it said, like, Jon Snow, graduated without honor.
That is funny.
Yeah.
Oh, can you read the quote that made both of us cry about Sansa?
Oh. So I saw a tweet that was like, Ned told Sansa that he was going to find her somebody gentle and brave and true, and she found it in herself.
I know.
Oh my god.
I know.
Beautiful.
It is beautiful. Ned
but that doesn't mean she can't have a freaking friend.
Or just like
I would have been honestly happy to have like a shot. Yeah, for sure. Dany got to have those.
I know, like Dario Naharis can Sansa
oh my
date
god,
Dario Naharis
could sail across the narrow sea. And
he was definitely the hottest person we've ever had on that show.
Oh god. Okay, and you know something that I just don't like, I don't want to get explicit, but I just don't think that this has been talked about enough. I don't believe that Daenerys would fall in love with Jon when her last sexual relationship was with Dario. Because I'm sorry, but there's no way that Jon Snow is better at sex than Dario. There's just not a possibility.
Well, I 100% agree with you.
I know that Ygritte trained him, but no.
Well, I think that part of the problem. So I also could never get behind the Jon Snow Daenerys like relationship because I think part of the reason was we had him and Ygritte, and so I'm like, oh, this was real. Whereas like, I mean, it's so real they got married in real life.
Yeah,
but I think then there was like development and like all this stuff, and then now like seeing him with Dany, I'm like, this is not the same. I don't feel the same. Like I remember my mom saying like at one point, like when Sam and Gilly, like the Sam and Gilly sex scene, and my mom was like, yuck, this is not what we want. The only thing we want to see is Jon and Ygritte. I'm like, Mom. Yeah.
Or Dario.
Or Dario.
Daenerys.
Or just Dario on his own.
Just Dario.
Yeah, no, yeah, yuck.
Foul.
But
yeah, I was just like, I think that like them being in love with each other was not.
They rushed it.
It was not set up well enough.
No.
I mean, I kind of buy it from Jon because it's just like he's just doesn't
such a
have.
Loser.
He's just so. I mean,
Yeah.
And I also think
So
that, like,
damaged.
both him and Rob, like, have that same, I'm surprised, like, he did, like, I don't know, I think he genuinely did love Egret, but I think that both he and Rob, like, part of the reason that, and especially in the books, that Rob marries
Janine,
that mistake of a
her
girl,
Jane,
to Lisa, or whatever the fuck.
Jane or Talisa, one of the two.
That life ruiner. Is because it's like they have sex and then he's like, he remembers the whole like Jon
Bastard
Snow thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, like, you know, my dad didn't raise me to like have mistresses and bastards. Like, I need to be honorable.
Yeah. He supposedly had one and then it actually didn't, but
yeah. Jeez,
yeah,
Louise.
no, I think it's also bizarre too because she's taller than him in the show too, and so it's just like I never really realized how short Jon was until this season.
Yeah.
Like he is a small, which like I mean, as we know, I like it, but but Jon's never been for me.
No, and like I think where he ended up, he's fine, but yeah, it was just like him. Like, again, like, that's why I think, like, his greatest arc is, like, being reunited with Sansa, and, like, when she's like, well, where are you gonna go now? Like, you're leaving the Night's Watch, because he's like, there's a loophole, they killed me. I get to leave this fucking place now. And, and he's like, where will we go? And you're like, oh.
Yeah.
And so, like, that begins this, like, really lovely, like, taking back, I don't know, the, like, Stark relationship. Like, it's just nice. But yeah, I just never needed him to be such a central player.
Yeah.
In some of that stuff.
Well, and I honestly do not believe that he was capable of killing Daenerys. I really don't.
Yeah. I could see him, like, kind of not being able to do that.
I think Sansa could.
Oh, for sure. Arya could have.
I know. I think if having Arya kill the Night King and Daenerys would have been too much, but I actually really would have liked it if Sansa like was like, you know what, I poisoned you.
I would have loved a good, like, what I was really envisioning is like Arya marching out of the wreckage from King's Landing and just immediately stabbing her. Just being like, this is over. Actually, you're done.
You know what I actually really wanted? You know when Tyrion took off his hand pin? I wanted him to just, like, shove it in her jugular. That would have been so cool. He would have been toast. But, like,
he would have been speared instantly by Grey Worm. But like,
it would have been fine. It would have been, like, I sort of felt like Tyrion has been such a huge player, and yet, I don't know, he never gets any action.
I know. I think my favorite Tyrion moment this whole season was when he kissed Sansa's hand.
Oh, God. Yes. Well, see, I thought they were setting it up to, like...
Yes! Like, that, like, those two have chemistry.
I know.
Like, they act really well together, and it's interesting, but they just didn't give...
Listen,
like, they gave him all those monologues, and all Sansa got to do was be like, I don't like the queen. And it was like, okay, please elaborate. Like, where are their episodes of, like, Sansa, like, now that Sansa and Arya are clearly friends, where are they having conversations like, we need to talk to our dumb brother about his girlfriend?
Like, sorry I wanted fucking Sansa and Tyrion to be Blair Waldorf and Chuck Bass. Like, sorry, that's so much to ask. God.
I mean... Come on. Now I'm really on this, like, Dario sailing across the sea. Somebody was like, I wonder how Marine's doing under Dario's control. Probably terrible.
He's not the sharpest tool, but God, does he look good.
Yeah, well, that's why he's going to come. Now this is canon. He's coming to Winterfell to solve some problems for Sansa. He has no power.
No, none.
But he's there.
He's around. Listen, he can just be like a Jorah Mormont figure where he just is like,
oh God, help us,
my queen. I fucking hated like, Jorah. He was so boring.
I mean, it just like I burst out laughing though when he says to Daenerys, "When you made Tyrion your hand, I was heartbroken." It's like, here is a guy that has only ever been kicked by this woman and loves her anyway.
Okay, let's not forget when he almost betrayed her. Or tried to betray her. Never forget that.
Yeah, but like, I don't know.
I never have forgiven him for that. I'm like, oh, you messed up once, you're done. I don't trust you. I don't. I'm sorry. Like, it just, like, you don't get to be shitty and then, like, be like, oh, well, now I've done a few nice things for you.
But he didn't know that she was going to be who she was.
Oh,
like,
he just thought she was like a young 14-year-old that he was going to sell anyway. Yeah, still fucked. Yeah. Still fucked, Audrey.
I mean, it was bad, but he was like, he didn't have a choice because he's like the prisoner from I don't know, selling slaves or whatever he did.
He does have a choice. Yeah, I know. It's like, let's not forget that he was a bad person.
Flawed. He was flawed.
No,
like
he was
all
bad.
of us are.
Oh my God. No, I just have never been a Jorah fan. My friend Lauren is a big Jorah fan, but
when he got grayscale, I was like, all right, see you later. Like,
I was like, good.
Care. And then we had to watch that gross scene where Sam saves him.
Where Sam skins him alive.
So thanks for the memories, Jorah.
Oh my God. Yeah, he sucked.
Ay. Speaking of sucked.
He really sucked.
All right. So, I mean, should we talk about the book?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say about Game of Thrones, though. Do I just not want to move on? Yeah.
I think ultimately, like, was the last season my favorite? No. Was it still a show that I'm glad that I watched and really think did some interesting, like, yes. So, and like also just like Sansa forever. Like, thank you for giving me this wonderful character. Very excited to see Sophie in Dark Phoenix.
I think that honestly, I'm going to move forward pretending as though this season does not exist.
That's fair. Like, I could see like not really feeling the need to rewatch this season.
Yeah, I would. If I rewatch the show, I would definitely skip this season.
Yeah. That feels fair to me. Just to stay on like an adjacent topic for a little while.
Wait.
Rachel. Oh, sorry. I was just
Are you moving on from Game of Thrones or no?
No, it's adjacent. Basically, I'm very happy for Sophie Turner and Joe Jonas.
Oh, well. She could do better.
Only because, well, not that I'm disputing she could do better, but I think they're actually really like a lovely couple.
I just think she's too young. Sorry, but
she's too young. But Rachel and Lauren were watching the Jonas Brothers documentary.
Oh, well.
And they were talking about how, like, when they, like, broke up, like, Nick and Joe had, like, resented Kevin for basically prioritizing his family over their music.
Oh, my God. Are you kidding me?
And Joe was talking about, like, how dumb he feels about that now, where he was like, I mean, my love was music, so I didn't really get it. And now it's like, I'll do anything to see Sophie for an hour. And I was like, oh, good. That's so lovely.
That is lovely. I mean, I'm happy for her.
I wish him the best.
Yeah, I wish him the best for sure. Sorry. I just wanted to talk about the Hound for, like, 1 second, just because.
Oh, please.
As, like, definitely my top 5 favorites, I feel like I need to say a proper goodbye. Mm-hmm. I loved him and Arya's goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
I love that they had a long ride down to King's Landing where I'm sure they, chatted. I hated the fight between him and the Mountain, which was one of the harder things to watch on television ever. The Mountain, that scene, he looked like a dead Varys, which was hard because Varys had been killed earlier that episode, and so it was kind of like, ugh. Or was that the episode before? I can't remember.
I think it's the episode after.
No, because
it's that episode. It's that episode.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, yeah, it's that episode because this is the one before the finale.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I was very sad about the Varys death. Like, and the fact that Tyrion turned him in, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
And like, I was like, you're just as guilty. Like, I just didn't get like what he was up to.
I know.
And he knew what was going to happen. And I just feel like Varys, like, as sneaky and sketchy as he is, like, I sort of felt like he always wanted the best for the kingdom. And I kind of always
Yeah.
felt like he should have been on that council at the end. Like, he should have been telling everyone who the king should be, and maybe he would have picked right. He would have picked Sansa. Unlike Tyrion, who picked fucking Bran.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't know. I wish the Hound could have gone on to be the head of Sansa's army and protected her, or just like been her bodyguard. Basically been what the Mountain was to Cersei. But or that he and Arya could have gone off exploring together, which apparently is her passion. But, you know, he went out with a bang. He took down the toughest guy ever.
Yep.
Who may or may not have been human.
Was fully not.
Definitely not human. I did like that Grand Maester Pycelle or whatever got his head just smushed.
Oh, for sure.
Similarly
Loved
to
that.
Oberyn Martell, another one of the hot characters on the show.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, after this episode, maybe we should just make a Dario Naharis appreciation podcast. Oh, remember season 2 when Dario was a different actor?
Yeah.
Thank God they changed him. Did you know that actor's in Nashville?
As who?
He plays that, like, kind of bad news guy who gets Scarlet hooked on, like, sleeping pills or whatever she is taking.
Oh.
And he also dates Rhaena.
Gross.
Yeah, he's terrible news. But it kind of is weird because Scarlet kind of looks like Daenerys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Similar hair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, anyway. All right, I've run out of things to say about it. End of the day, disappointed. But love the show.
Mm-hmm.
I'm grateful that they didn't bring Catelyn Stark back as, like, a zombie.
Lady Stoneheart.
Yeah, I'm sad that we never got to see Nymeria again, Arya's direwolf, which I, like, thought was coming any moment. All the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt like they had said kind of last season, though, when she does show up, that it was, like, basically her saying goodbye.
Wait, she did show up last season?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
I mean, because it was such a nothing scene.
Oh,
it was like,
I totally forgot that happened. Okay, well, I mean, at least they, like, kind of addressed it. Although, fucking, like, they didn't address Ghost's lost ear. like, it's like, oh, here's Ghost finally again, and he's missing an ear, and no one said anything.
Tormund just taking terrible care of him.
Tormund. Ugh, God, what a great guy.
Fan
At
fave.
least Jon Snow has a fan. He's another redhead to keep him company in the north.
Exactly.
All right. So, we read Devil in the White City.
And, okay, so look, I feel like the people that I have talked to about this book have been like, oh, it's a great book. I'm so excited. And it's like... And
How did this win so many awards, too? Like, good God.
And it's like, I don't want to insult anyone, but it's like, it was not my book, is maybe what I'll say.
Okay, I hated it.
It was also like, I was reading it in the winter, and it was like, I was already taking time out of, you know, like, being busy with school stuff to read it. And so it was like, really what I wanted was like, something fun.
Yeah, it wasn't fun.
It wasn't fun.
It was boring. It was really boring.
I think it was just, well, I think maybe if I gave any amount of shits about the World Fair, I would have liked it more.
Should I read a summary of what this book is?
Yeah. By who? David Larson?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Here's Wikipedia.
Okay.
Okay, the book is set in Chicago in 1893, interweaving the true tales of Daniel H. Burnham, the architect behind the 1893 World Fair, and Dr. H. H. Holmes, a pharmacist and serial killer who lured his victims to their deaths in his elaborately constructed murder castle. The Devil in the White City is divided into 4 parts, the first 3 happening in Chicago. Part 4 takes place in Philadelphia, blah, blah, blah.
It does.
I know. I finished this last night. I don't remember that. Yeah, so the story of Daniel Burnham is his building of the fair and the struggles he overcomes form one plotline. The other, a vivid and very different plotline, is that of Dr. H.H. Holmes, a mentally unstable pharmacist/doctor who forms a plan to use an abandoned lot across the street from his pharmacy to lure and kill multiple victims. Was he mentally unstable? I don't know that that's been established.
I mean, I think anyone who's murdering people is probably a little mentally unstable.
I mean, yeah, but it wasn't like... I mean, I would call the guy, like, the random plotline that they also have in this book about the guy who murders the mayor. Like, I would call him mentally unstable. I would call H.H. Holmes a psychopath.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, basically, what this book is about is them building the World's Fair. It's a lot about architecture. And it talks about, like, 7 men who are constantly getting sick or having trouble. And it's also like the Great Depression, so they have no money really, so like they're all constantly worrying about that, and then they have to build the World's Fair in like a very short period of time, and they do, and it's fine. I
guess I wish I knew why it mattered that the World's Fair existed.
What is the World's Fair?
It was a fair.
I mean, what was the point of it?
I don't know. My favorite part of the book was like one moment where there was a controversy about a Buffalo Bill exhibit and a church, and Susan B. Anthony says...
Oh, fuck yeah.
Or
Susie.
Susan B. Anthony was asked, would you rather your son attend the Buffalo Bill exhibit than church? And she said yes, he would learn far more.
Yeah, love that too. Susie. She's the best.
So that was maybe the one... moment of joy that I experienced reading this book.
Yeah. Well, so, okay. And so then there's this other plotline. So it's like basically every other chapter. So half of it you're talking about the World's Fair, and then half of it you're talking about H.H. Holmes. And like, I mean, I think that H.H. Holmes could have had, like, that could have been an interesting book in its own right. But I think also maybe because this was like straight nonfiction, like we didn't have enough.
Yeah, I just wish, like, I wanted to hear more. Like, they made it seem like he was, like, stalking the fair and, like, luring victims. And it just, like, it was just very, like...
Well, they don't really have any evidence. Like I don't... Like, they only have stuff to support, like, the people that they know went missing. Like, for example, people that... like, all the women he claimed to have married, basically, who then went missing. Or, like, people that they know were there. But... I don't know. I mean, I guess that, like, the fact that the murder castle exists, but...
Yeah, I guess, like, I just felt like the text itself, like, the prose of it was just not, like, it was so, like,
bad?
Almost like a text... Like, it was like a textbook.
Okay.
Whereas, like, I think about, like, Ron Chernow's Alexander Hamilton book, which I never really thought I would like, because I was like, I'm not really into just, like... dry biographies, but it's really interesting and like compellingly written, and so it's like all the like minutia of Alexander Hamilton's life, like every moment of it you're like, wow, this is cool, or like it's written with like a sense of humor and just like a sense of vibrancy, where I felt like this book I was like, oh my god. And again, just like, I don't know why I'm being asked to care about the World's Fair. I just don't know why that's something that matters. And maybe, I mean, Tyler and Ari live in Chicago.
We're visiting them this summer.
Yes, maybe that's a huge part of their identity.
Maybe.
I don't get it.
Well, I was actually talking to my mom. So my mom also read this book recently, and she's like, God, enjoy it. But she was like, yeah, like I went to go Google the World's Fair, and guess what? Did you know that they tore it all down? I'm like, yeah, Mom, like it was temporary. But she's like, what the fuck? Like I was like, I'm supposed to care about this thing? There's like nothing left of it. Like
so
I
wasteful.
can't visit it. I can't look at pictures. Like, yeah. It is wasteful, actually, especially during the Great Depression. It's like you're building a huge steel Ferris wheel, and you know we need that for stuff.
That goddamn Ferris wheel. Oh my god, so many chapters about it.
I know.
And I kept waiting. It sounded like, was there a disaster that happened with the Ferris wheel? I feel like maybe one person died, but they built it up like there was going to be like a mass tragedy, and it seemed fine.
I thought it was fine. I thought there were no deaths on it.
Maybe not. I don't know.
There was the fire in that like tower building,
mm-hmm.
and that killed people, and that seemed to be like they didn't do a good job to like keeping stuff up to code. It seems like,
yeah. I did like that when the fair was over and they had to talk about how they were going to get rid of it, that just setting it on fire was on the table.
I know. That was what Burnham preferred.
Yeah. Like, can you imagine, like, if, like, a carnival ended or, like, the Olympics were over and they just set it on fire? Like, we don't need this anymore.
Yeah, just do a quick controlled burn.
Well, and I don't believe that they could have done a controlled burn in that time period.
No, I don't think so either. There's like,
no way.
I don't trust their fire hydrant system. Yeah. I don't know. I also felt like I didn't feel like there was enough of a connection between H.H. Holmes and the World's Fair to actually like,
I agree.
make it a thing. I sort of was like, why are these two books together?
I kept wondering, like, are there going to be elements? I mean, like, I guess they kind of go into this a little bit, but I thought it was going to be about, like, the elements of the World Fair that he was able to, like, exploit.
Right, whereas it actually didn't seem that it was actually anything to do with the World's Fair. It was more the fact that, like, it was the first time that women were living independently and were, like, a little naive and didn't really, like, they weren't, like, world-weary enough yet. Like, they didn't know to, like, not trust people. Like they just sort of were like, oh, like, I'm gonna pack my trunk and head on to the city and get my job for the first time. And then, like, he took advantage of that. But that didn't really actually seem to be connected to the World's Fair. It seemed to be more connected to the fact that women were working.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like there were, like, maybe 2 instances where I remember I'm like, all right, so he's walking with these women around the fair. This seems promising. And then it was just kind of like, and then they went home.
Well, and I think if there had been concrete evidence that he had done this on purpose, where it was like, oh yeah, and he killed tons of people in his murder castle who were staying at the fair, I mean, I guess that's kind of a link, but it's like, we don't know. It's like, well, yeah, okay. And it's like, well, hundreds of people went missing during the fair. And I'm like, okay, I don't think H.H. Holmes killed them all.
No.
It doesn't seem like his hotel was big enough to fit that many people in the first place.
No.
I don't know. But how many... So I'm going to look up H.H. Holmes right now. Because I feel like in the past I've heard more about him. Like, it seemed like this book knew very little about it. Like, how many people did he kill? We don't know, I guess.
I don't know.
Yeah, I guess they don't know. Does it say on Wikipedia? Okay, 9 confirmed and 27 confessed.
Oh.
Yeah. He also married multiple women. That sucked.
Yeah.
He's not that handsome. Like, they keep talking about how handsome he is. Like, I don't think anyone was handsome in this time period when they all had mustaches like that.
Yeah, no, it's not great. And I also just think, though, like, this book made me think about and I think we've talked about this before, but, like, my entry point into true crime and, like, what I like. And what I like is how the police catch someone. Like, I like hearing how they, like, pieced everything. Like, my favorite thing is when they're like, and then then they realize that the 911 call was weird. And, like, they have, like, an analyst who's, like, a person normally when it's, like, a true moment of crisis wouldn't use that word. They, like, this word almost, like, implies that. And I'm like, how, like, that to me is awesome. Like, that is my favorite thing. Or, like, that they, like, get a hit on Ancestry.com. Hello, Golden State Killer. Like,
hi.
Or, like, the FBI makes a profile, and then they're like, okay, like, well, this, you know, this placement of the body suggests it's this, and blah, blah, blah. Like, that is what I like about true crime. And I'm, like, interested in the pathos of a killer, but I was just like, there was not any of the stuff that I jam with in this. And then it was, again, like, I just can't stress enough how much I don't care that the World's Fair existed.
Yeah, I think that the only part that I liked of this book was the part where the detective was like going around all the hotels and like trying to figure out what had happened to those children. And like I thought that part was exciting, and the fact that he did find those bodies is like wild, honestly. Yeah. But yeah, I think I was honestly more interested in like what he said in his memoir. Like I would have liked I would think I just should have read that instead.
Yeah.
Because this was, I don't know, I found the writing annoying. I found it like,
yeah, like I think it's just like another classic, like, I don't know, boy, like a Vincent Bugliosi, like, oh.
I actually like thought that I liked that much better than I liked this.
Yes.
I hated how he kept leaving these like cliffhangers at the end of stuff, like it would be a few small weeks until we would know this. It's like, okay, well, thanks for like,
well, what? And then I'd be like, oh, okay, like something. I think that's what he did about the Ferris wheel. And then I was like, ooh, something's going to happen with the Ferris wheel. Yes. Yeah. And then it was like, it stopped for 30 minutes and people had to wait at the top. It was like super.
Do you like going to the fair in general?
No.
Okay, me
What is there to like? Like,
I don't know. Like,
I mean, the funnel cakes are great, but the rides, like it's dirty.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like that they exploit people at those fairs. Yeah. Like, it's always, especially like at a state fair or something, it's always like weird exhibits that I think are like kind of exploitative.
Yeah. There's always a fortune teller.
Yeah.
Oh, I got my fortune read in New Orleans.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I had my tarot cards done. Yeah.
Oh, you did that when we were in Asheville.
Yes, I did. It was similarly legit to the one I did in Nashville. Perfect. AKA not at all.
AKA a perfect understanding of your future.
Yeah. This guy's name was Crow, so I'm like, great. This seems
he probably put a curse on you.
I know. Well, like, all of it was actually pretty, like, I believe in the tarots, but, so I pulled, the first card was Justice, which I'm like, makes sense. And then I had, like, one about, like, a straight path or something. I don't know. Like, the two wands or something. I don't know. Whatever. And then the last card I pulled was Death. And I'm like, great.
Uh-oh.
And he was like, are you having legal problems? I'm like, well, yeah, I'm in law school. So if that's a legal problem, sure am. And he was like, oh, like, your path is, like, very clear and, like, you're doing all the things you need to do. And he's like, the Death card, like, like, let me, like, look at some more cards to clarify. And he's like, well, your future is very dark.
Oh, no.
I know. And I'm like, well, prosecuting sex crimes probably is a little dark.
Yeah. Well,
or I'm going to be murdered by somebody I prosecute. So somebody will have a death threat hit on me.
I hope not.
Honestly, it would be a little cool. Like, not for all of my loved ones, but like for my memoir, for my biography, it will be cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I forgot what I was just going to say. Oh, I think, like, at a fair, like, the tarot card reader is, like, pretty harmless. It's more like when they're like, oh, do you want to come look at the Siamese twins? And you're like, okay.
Yeah. That's, yeah.
Like, that stuff is gross. Yeah, the rides are dirty and
frankly, probably
risky.
Dangerous. Yeah.
I just don't like it.
Yeah, I don't really like them either. I think there's, like, this romantic idea of them. Like, oh, it would be such a nice date, and it just never is.
No, and it's also, like, I don't like cotton candy. And,
me either.
I mean,
dirty. It gets your hands so sticky.
I always feel like a little, I mean, I feel like I'm coming off as such a snob talking like this, but I just always feel a little, like, dirty if I'm at the fair.
The only thing that I want at the fair is the nachos with the cheese that come out of a pump. But guess what? I can get those at 7-Eleven. So no need to go to the fair. Yeah.
Well, and I'm just like, I'm sorry, like I'm a product of Pete Schultz, who there was a carnival in a town neighboring ours every year for a very, very long time. And they only recently shut it down because they used to auction off a Corvette every year. And it was like a raffle. So you would buy raffle tickets for the chance to win this Corvette. And then they basically decided that it was illegal gambling and shut down the entire carnival.
Well,
for like, and they've been doing this carnival like since before my dad was born, I think. And I'm like, did we just now figure out that that was not legal? I don't understand. Or they just like never cared about that town that much. Anyway, but like I mean, it's not a classy carnival in any way, shape, or form. There's a beer tent. But it was like a thing that like when it was happening, you like everyone went. And my dad and mom took us when we were kids. And then one year they put the trash can like next to the entrance to the ride. And my dad was like, we're leaving. This place is foul. And we never went back. And we were like never even really allowed to go again.
So the Marin County... The Marin County,
go ahead.
The Marin County one takes place around 4th of July, and my family always went to Tahoe for 4th of July, so I just never went to it as a kid. So, but like I remember feeling like very left out about it, being like,
I'm sure,
like all my friends are going to the fair, and like poor me, I'm sitting on the beach in Lake Tahoe. But now I'm like #grateful. Probably would have caught a disease there. But like I will say that they did have pretty good bands come. Like Pat Benatar came one year. Third Eye Blind has come before. So
yeah,
that's the one
I like a festival is what I'll say. Like
I don't like crowds, I think.
Yeah, I mean that's not great. My hometown has like a festival every year, and it's like they have really good food, and there's like usually, you know, like you can get like a henna tattoo, and like they have like fun little like booths that you can buy like cool stuff at, and like there's a parade, and like these guys called the Buckskinners like camp out on the creek for a week or whatever, and like or the weekend. It's just a weekend, but like that to me is fun. Like, and there's usually like music under the tent, and like the school will do stuff to perform for it, and so like it's like a small town like nice kind of festival. Like or like in Rochester they do a lilac festival.
Oh, that sounds nice.
And it's like you come and you walk around all the blooming lilacs and you eat a funnel cake. That I enjoy. But it's like as soon as there's a freaking ride involved.
I don't really like rides in general.
I don't even really like theme parks.
Yeah, I mean, I went to Disneyland and had a nice time there. But
yeah, I mean, Disney does a nice job.
But that's like seems like that's like more of an experience, and the rides are well done and like seem safe. But like I do not like roller coasters at all. Never have. I went literally on my first upside down like real roller coaster this last time I went to Disneyland. So as a 27-year-old, I did that.
Yeah. Did we say the book title that we were talking about?
I think I did a long time ago.
Okay.
Devil in the White City.
Well, in case Devil in the White City.
Oh, the other thing about the title though is it said something like murder and magic. I'm like, where the fuck was the magic?
Yeah.
Like, this is supposed to be nonfiction, and like also you didn't deliver what you promised me. There's no mystical realism or anything. It's just like boring.
Can you imagine if you like love this book and you're like, oh yes, Audrey and Cher are talking about that book. I had such a nice time reading it, which I don't want to insult you because like maybe it's just not my taste, but I genuinely don't understand.
Didn't it win? Like,
what about it did you enjoy?
My sister liked it. She recommended it to me.
I know she did. Explain yourself, Mary Kate.
I know.
I guess maybe if you're interested in that time period or
I think
architecture.
I think Mary Kate has a lot more interest in like cultural history than me.
Maybe.
Okay. And so I think like she is an anthropology double major with astrophysics, and so I think like she likes maybe the like cultural aspects of it.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe.
I could see that as like kind of tracking human behavior throughout time. I could see that.
Yeah. But
I accept that.
I don't know though. I mean, wow. My one of my friends in law school went to architecture school before it, and I'm gonna ask her if she read it and liked it, because I'm like, this is one person who might have liked this book. But I'm like, who are the people who made this a bestseller? Like, who kept buying this?
Well, I think it also, like, I mean, it definitely benefited from getting, like, it. Did it win the National Book Award, or was it a finalist for the National Book Award?
I don't know. I'm going to look it up.
It definitely was, like, in the conversation for a book award, and I think that always, like, bolsters sales.
It had a thing on the front of it. Like on my copy, there's, like, a silver, whatever, like, award thing. Like the Newbery medal, but whatever it was.
Yeah.
Okay. The honors. It was a finalist for the National Book Award.
Okay.
But it won a lot of awards. It was a New York Times bestseller.
Mm-hmm.
It was the San Francisco Chronicle's best book of the year. Come on, San Francisco. I'm sure
not even about your city.
I'm sure there was something better that came out in 2003. Yeah. I mean, I guess I could see it. Well, I just don't think it was that good. I don't know.
Can I tell you, I was super nervous. Cher texted me earlier today and said,
Cher?
okay, I did not.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
are you talking to our listeners?
Yes. And she said that she didn't like the book, and I texted back, oh, thank God, me neither. Because I was so nervous that I was almost in my head, like, kind of when we were talking about recording, I was almost thinking, like, oh, maybe we'll just do a different book. Like, maybe we'll
that's
just
what
talk.
That's what my mom said to me. She's like, do you even really want to do this for your podcast? I'm like, it's too late. She's read it.
I almost, but, like, you were like, okay, yeah, we'll do that one. And, like, in my head, I was almost like, I don't know. I also finished this book, like, in February, maybe?
Yeah, well, I finished it yesterday, so.
Yeah, so
I read it in
a
2
little
days.
bit fresher than I am.
Well,
but...
I'm gonna make the confession that during all of the architecture parts, I read the first and last sentence of every paragraph.
Oh, I really started skimming.
I was like, oh, this isn't about H.H. Holmes? Well.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, like, listening back to our...
Yes, okay.
Go ahead. I was going to say, just listening back to our Awakening podcast, like, remember how much fun we could have talking about unsatisfied married women? Like, oh, yeah, that's our bread and butter.
Maybe that's the problem, is there were basically no women in this book, except for murder victims.
Honestly, I'm not even exaggerating. Like, I just think, like, and that's always kind of been my interest point. Like, even in grad school, I was like, what are the women doing?
Yeah.
But I just think, like, that is ultimately what I'm interested in, is, like, how women are depicted in novels. Not that I'm not interested in men in novels, but, like, gosh, like, honest, there's got to be a lady in there.
None of these characters were that compelling to me, though. Like, I was just not that interested. Like,
I didn't even know why that guy wanted to build the World's Fair. I was like, why this?
He seemed underqualified.
And why did they want to kill the mayor? I just don't know.
Oh, Pendergast? Why did he want to? Because he was crazy.
Oh.
I remember the other thing I wanted to talk about. Speaking of serial killers, the fucking Ted Bundy movie, which we hyped for years, was such a disappointment.
Yeah, I thought Zac Efron was good in the movie.
I thought Zac Efron was good, and I thought Lily, what's her name, was good too.
Yeah, I honestly I would not be surprised if we found out that after the trailer was released, or, like, after Sundance or something, that the movie was edited. Because it was
choppy.
It seemed to me as if the movie was, like, trying to go out of its way not to offend anyone, because there was, like, a lot of controversy when the trailer came out of, like, why is this movie even being made? Like, what's the value? You know, is this, which I think
I don't know,
good,
because people like it. Sorry.
Well, I think that, like, in this cultural moment of true crime, like, it is good to be interrogating, like, what value this kind of stuff has, and especially if you're, like, and like, how you're depicting it. Like, I think that is all, like, really, like, worthy of discussion, and, you know, I don't think it's wrong to, like, have those concerns. But then it almost seemed like they had edited it in such a way that it had just, like, no real take. I was just like, I'm confused.
To me, it almost seemed like you could, if you didn't know who Ted Bundy was, you could spend most of the movie being like, is he innocent? Because it's like we never actually see him murdering anybody until, like, the very end. And so I'm sort of like, why?
Yeah. Yeah, I found myself almost like I couldn't help but to, because of the expertise that Anne Rule has given me.
Absolutely. That's 600 pages of knowledge we now have.
Which I remember so much more than I will ever remember any word of The Devil in the White City. But I found myself almost like requiring Rachel and Lauren to pause the movie so I could give them more context.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I also just sort of felt like, as a huge true crime fan who like does understand that there are like some offensive elements that could be whatever, I found this movie more offensive than if we had just like told the story of the murders, because I felt like they really romanticized him.
Yeah.
You know, like I think like I think in the beginning of the movie it's like, holy shit, like this is a fairy tale. And then you watch her like go downhill and become a huge raging alcoholic and whatever, but
well, and that's why I feel like the structure of the movie was what the problem was. Like, I think Ari and I were talking about this, and I think I talked to you about this too, where, like, to me, what's interesting about Ted Bundy is that disconnect. So I think having the Lily Collins character of the girlfriend in there, and, like, even we talked about this when we did Stranger Beside Me, Anne Rule's own relationship with Ted Bundy is really interesting.
Why was Anne Rule not even in it at all?
I know. But I think what's interesting about Ted Bundy is even once these people found out more information about Ted and like knew that he was probably guilty, they still felt this weird pull.
Right.
And I also think what's interesting about him as a killer, or what interests me, is that chameleon ability of like, it seems like he would turn on a dime into someone very evil.
Right.
And so what I think have been more interesting, because they start the movie almost with the conceit that she's made the call to the police.
Right.
I think it would have been interesting to watch her go through that process of he's out there with his, you know, extracurricular activities and like living this basically double life.
Right.
And how that all starts to fall apart. Like that to me is what's interesting. It's not like the court case is not particularly interesting to me because it's like pretty cut and dry.
I mean, the stuff that's interesting is, like, the escape, the fact that he murdered a huge sorority house. Like, I mean, like, like, it's a good, I mean, the thing is, it's, like, it's a very exciting story. And it's, and it's also just wild that, like, I mean, I don't know.
I think the movie was ultimately...
He escaped not once, but twice. Like, that's wild.
Yeah. I think the movie, though, was ultimately, and there was, like, a focus on this idea of like, and it was kind of about like the women in Ted Bundy's life and even the women who like showed up to his court case. And I think that's ultimately what the director was like fascinated with, because they had like scenes of like, you know, showing like that these women were there and like, why are you here? Blah, blah, blah.
Guess,
and it's
like
that's
to me,
just
I'm
like not what's interesting about Ted Bundy.
Well, and to me, I'm like,
I mean, it is, but I mean,
if you're going to focus on women though, like let's focus on the like 90 women that he killed. I mean, it's like, to me, I'm like, that's like, it's like they don't exist in this movie. It's like just about like him. Yeah. And like, to me, that is more harmful and like more offensive than if you had actually been like, listen, like, this is what happened.
Yeah. And I think, because I think that they didn't want to show some of the murders because it was like, oh, is that going to be gratuitous or is that like upsetting to the families? But it's like not necessarily. You can do it in a way.
You're doing a movie about Ted Bundy. Like, it is gratuitous. Like, sorry. Like, he beheaded a woman. I mean, it's just like, yeah. I mean, I sort of feel like you can't like pussyfoot around when you are doing a movie about Ted Bundy.
Yeah. And it was like finally at the end, like, it's almost like as Lily Collins' character confronts the horror of what Ted has done, like we as an audience have to. And I'm also just like, I don't think that was correct. Like he would not have crowbarred a girl in broad daylight and then dragged her into the car.
No, he dragged her like into the woods. Like it was bizarre. I'm like, this is not how it happened.
He tricked girls into getting into the car. That was part of it. Like,
I also don't even think that girl was a brunette that they showed him attacking. Like it was just like, what is this?
Yeah. It's like, did you read Anne Rule's book?
Do you know a thing about Ted Bundy? Come on. Yeah. I mean, like, I did think it was cool that they had, like, the scenes at the end where they, like, show Ted Bundy, like, doing the stuff that Zac Efron had done. Like, I thought that was cool. Like, that was the only thing I liked about it, though. Also, I liked Haley Joel Osment or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Her, like, new boyfriend who turned out to be great. But,
yeah. I don't know why he stayed around. Oh, my gosh.
I know. I mean, because Lily Collins was beautiful and needed help.
She is. And I think in the 70s, it was like a beautiful, sad girl was really just like the cream of the crop.
I mean, isn't that every day, though?
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that still the case today?
Beautiful, sad girls are really what everyone wants.
That is what everybody wants. I mean, Marissa from the OC.
Come on.
Yeah, I don't know. Disappointed. Once again, basically, this is a episode of disappointments.
Complaining.
Yeah.
I mean, what I would say is, like, if you enjoyed any of the things that we have complained about this episode, like, give us a polite message explaining your side. And we might agree or disagree with you, but, you know, just be in convo with us on Instagram or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Did anyone like the Ted Bundy movie? Like, I haven't heard anyone who liked it.
I think some of my students liked it.
Okay, so infants.
But yeah, I mean, I think it was more like maybe that was their first exposure, though, to this story.
Okay.
And so they were like, whoa, this seems to have a lot going on.
That's true. I guess I think when you have read Anne Rule's thing, it's like, oh, like, you really should have been focusing on different things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, I think his relationship is interesting just in that he maintained it. And it's like kind of a weird thing too, because it's like, did he really love her, or like, did he just want control, or like, what's the deal? And like, we don't really know. But I think that's what like the fascination was, and like why they did the story was because they wanted that kind of like, I don't know, they wanted to portray that like abusive relationship.
Oh, for sure. Like, I think the best part of the movie is when they ask her, like, I think what they do well is portray like even though in theory he never like hurt, like he obviously didn't hurt Lily Collins's character as much as he hurt the women he murdered,
right, or
like severely wounded,
right.
But I think it shows you like the emotional and like physical wounds that a sociopath can leave on a person, where like this idea of like, well, why didn't you just leave? It's like, okay, it's not that easy, especially when you have been manipulated by a master manipulator to believe that your life is only meaningful when he is around.
Well, and
he was able to do that without like saying that explicitly.
Right. Well, not to mention like he doggedly pursues her.
Yeah.
Like, she can't, like, the moment she gets stable, he's, like, calling and calling and calling and calling. And, like, friggin' Haley Joel Osment finally is like, we're unplugging this. Like, sorry.
Yeah. Which that, to me, did track, especially because, like, he did something similar to Anne Rule, too, where he was, like, in, like, constant contact with her.
No, I think it does track.
So I thought that element to me was like very well done and interesting, but I wish it had been more about her like kind of internal debate about whether or not she should turn him in or believe like what her friend was telling her.
Oh yeah, her friend
and
in
less
Westworld.
Yeah, and less of her like lying sad, smoking on a couch.
Yeah. Carol Ann Boone though, like they cast her so well. Like that I was like, whoa, this is like accurate.
Yeah.
I hate that her name is Carol Ann because it kind of sounds like Cheryl Ann.
Cheryl.
But did you know like the fact that he was able to get her pregnant while he was in jail is just like so wild to me.
Yeah.
Like, there are theories that he, like, ejaculated into a condom, put it in his mouth, and then when he kissed her, like, put it into her mouth, and then she, like, used that.
Ew.
I know. Isn't that disgusting? I'm pretty sure I read that on, like, Rolling Stone or something, so.
I'm, like, upset to know that now.
I mean, the way they showed it in the show was, like, they just, like, had sex behind a vending machine or something, but.
Yeah, and they, like, greased the, guard like a 20 or something.
Yeah. I don't think that that's how it happens, but maybe. I don't know. The prison system, very corrupt. Well, what did you give
on that note?
What did you give Devil in the White City out of on Goodreads?
Oh, geez, I don't know. I probably gave it credit for being well researched. I was probably feeling insecure about my dislike of it and being like, am I just dumb? Like, I don't know.
I give it a 2.
See. I might have given it a 2. No, not Devil Wears Prada. That I would have enjoyed more. Devil in the White City. It's still showing me Devil Wears Prada. Devil in the... Oh my god.
Your Goodreads knows you well.
Oh, okay. So I gave it a 3. It's probably what that more would have been is
a 2.5.
like a 2.5. Yeah. And like the half star is for
research.
Well researched. Oh wow, this one person that I know wrote a really long review.
Was it good or bad?
It was good. Mm. They do call it a novel, though.
It's not a novel.
It is not. I don't know.
Well, okay. If you liked it, good for you. You're probably smarter than us. But I just didn't love it. We definitely are reading something fictional next time.
Oh, God, yeah. Something fun.
Something real fun. We can talk about it off air, though.
Yeah, but if you have suggestions and you're not Mary Kate...
Poor Mary Kate. I'm not even going to tell her I didn't like it because I don't want her to stop engaging with me. She's not going to listen, so it's fine.
Like, Cher's dumb and we all knew it. And he's like, no, it's not it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you've got some suggestions for us, like, hit us in the Instagram comments or whatever. And, thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.